By the time you watch this video, I will be a legal adult.
Hi, my name is Jade, otherwise known as Awaiting Apotheosis, and as of yesterday, I am 18 years old. And I can already tell you this, my 10-year-old self would have been greatly disappointed. At that age, I thought that I would be popular, go to parties, have a boyfriend. My aim was to grow my hair down to my waist, and not only did I assume that I would be able to drive, but I also imagined that I would own a red sports car. Personally, I blame the TV show X-Men Evolution for this misconception. I just generally thought that I would know what I was doing, but I was so wrong. I mean, even if you'd asked me just a few years ago, I would have been able to tell you exactly what I wanted to do with my life, where I wanted to go to university, what job I wanted to have, where I wanted to live. It's like I've regressed. I can't even make simple decisions anymore. My only long-term goal for myself at this point is to become as well-read as possible, considering that reading is the only thing I'm really good at. So in honour of that, I have put together a list of books, not necessarily my favourites, but ones that have shaped me over the first 18 years of my life. First of all, let's get the obvious out of the way, the Harry Potter series. I know a lot of you would probably say the same, it's just that a couple of months ago I was having lunch with my friend Lucy and we were discussing Hogwarts houses, and I stopped for a second and I thought, when I was 7 years old, I definitely did not expect to be talking about this 10 years later. Secondly, my first favourite book, Carrie's War by Nina Borden. My grandmother gave me a copy when I was 6 years old, and I have reread it more times than anything else I own. The first young adult book I read in 6th grade was Tithe by Holly Black. I had never read anything before where there was swearing and queer characters and the protagonist smoked and shoplifted without any serious consequences. Jane Eyre also earns a place, as it was not only the first Bronte book I read, but the first classical book I read after watching a BBC adaptation of it with my mum. Before this book, I had never really considered that classical literature could be anything other than intimidating people having unintelligible conversations, but really it's probably responsible for me reading a lot of my other favourites. But back to YA fiction really quickly. Nerdfighteria has had a huge impact on my life, and although Looking for Alaska is my favourite John Green book, An Abundance of Catherines is the one I read first, so it's the one that's going on this list. Number 6, I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. I like to think of this as an anti-fairy tale, which makes it sound darker than it actually is, but as a coming-of-age novel, it's wonderfully written, and I think everyone should read it at least once. The Crow Road by Ian Banks. This is one of those books for me where the opening line is just so pleasant and familiar that it feels like coming home, for lack of a better metaphor. It was the day my grandmother exploded. How's that for an opening sentence? If I had to pick one book to include on this list that was assigned reading for school, it would be F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. Even though I initially read this for pleasure, I love the themes and the symbolism, and it's so beautifully written. And finally, I thought that I should add the book that I'm reading at the moment, which is The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards, which I'm actually getting towards the end of, although I haven't been hugely impressed with it. And then after that, I have a reading list that is currently over 80 items long. If this is the only thing that I can think of to do with the rest of my life, then I'm certainly not going to be bored.